That's not on the test. Don't worry about that. Okay, continuum of compensation philosophies. I've worked at both types of institutions. Let's give you a couple stereotypes. The stereotype of an entitlement culture might be the one I'm in. Central is unique. I think it's an awesome place, but higher education might be entitlement culture. I've been here for another year. I get my 3% raise. Well, yes, but you were bad at your job. You actually made students dumber, and nobody liked you because you didn't do a good job. Yeah, but I was here, so I get my raise. That's the idea of entitlement. Nobody points out excellent performance and rewards it with money. They might say thank you, good job, and give you a little plaque, but nobody rewards it with money. Whereas an example of a performance culture might be like an IT startup, where somebody created a product that customers are now buying. We're going to give that person stock options in $1 million because they just made us $30 million. So that is, you're rewarding behaviors that you want to see repeated, versus in an entitlement culture, you are rewarding employees for having a pulse and showing up. Two different models. There, of course, is a business heuristic that says you get what you pay for. So in a performance-oriented culture, if as a professor this year I didn't do a good job and I just kind of went through the motions and did what I normally do, well, then I wouldn't get a raise. There was no outstanding, unique performance there. Whereas in entitlement culture, I think maybe like a heavily unionized environment where everybody gets kind of a peanut butter spread across the board raises, the idea is it disincentivizes standout excellent performance. You probably didn't have to think more than 2 seconds to realize that I highly value a performance culture. That's how we got our iPhone, this computer, the video that I'm talking to. These things that are created, they're incredible inventions that reward innovation and performance. That's typically pretty good. Keep going. Let's hit a few theories as reminders. We went through these previously, talking about motivation and job attitudes. Just a reminder, expectancy theory. That is, employees have to believe they are going to get the financial outcome. Otherwise, they're not going to work hard. So if you tell me, James, if you work hard, you're going to get this raise, but I don't believe you'll do that, or I don't believe I have the ability to do the performance expectations you've set for me, then I have no motivation. I'm not going to do anything. So as we think about designing compensation systems, we have to go, how do we convince employees, usually through models, right, showing them, how do we convince employees that, yeah, if we hit this mark, we will pay out this bonus, this profit sharing, this whatever it happens to be. More motivation theories on this. Equity theory. I know we talked about this again. Just want to show you another little graphic here. Reminder that employees have inputs, that is, things that they bring to the table, and there are things that they expect, and rightfully so, starting with a paycheck. But there's even more than that. And to the extent that is fair, the person will continue to sow in. If we pay more, equity theory would say, well, the employee will make up for that. And if we pay less, the theory would say that employees will withdraw or extract their good performance out. So when we start thinking about compensation, compensation after a certain number, it's not very high, it's very psychological, right? So if I make $200,000 a year and another professor makes $250,000 a year, I'll go, oh, why does the firm value them more than me? Like, that's not right. Or if I make $70,000 a year and another professor makes $60,000 a year, I go, yeah, they recognize the skill. That's right. So it's a comparison. It's psychology in many ways, but the effect of a misalignment of someone's head, kind of where they're at, is going to be usually a withdrawal of inputs. Meaning, why would I work extra hard on this lecture? Why would I do a video lecture? I'll just send up PowerPoint slides. Like, that doesn't matter. Well, why do I feel that way? Well, because I'm putting in more than I'm getting. That's equity theory. So we have to manage those expectations with our employees. And two things I want to make sure we hit. There is, with equity theory, there is external equity. That is, I'm comparing, or you're comparing the salary, benefits, experience that you have with other people in the organization, or even other people outside the organization. But there's internal equity too. Think of this like someone's got a PhD in art history and they can make beautiful sculptures, but there's not a lot of jobs for that, and so they're pushing carts at Costco. Not ripping on Costco, great company, but they're pushing carts at Costco, and they're saying, I'm making 16 bucks an hour with my credentials. This is crap. And so they're totally demotivated. That's not an external equity issue. Everybody else is making 16 bucks an hour too. That's an internal issue. I think I'm worth more is what we'd see in that situation. These are connected to what's called this a sense of justice, two different types. One of them is procedural justice. This to me is like basic bread and butter. Every manager has to get this idea of procedural justice. If my son comes to me and says, Dad, can I play Fortnite? I say no, and he says, why? I say, because I said so. That might work a few times. Eventually I'm going to get resistance. But if I sit down and explain, well, these are the studies that I've read, and I'm worried about you, and cardiovascular condition, and we're going to go play soccer and football, and I'm going to stop recording lectures, and we're going to go XYZ. You can see what's happening in my house right now. So that's giving him procedural justice. That is, I'm explaining to you the procedures by which we came to this decision. If I say your salary is 80 grand and you say I want it to be 85, and I say no because I said so, using that authority or that power, it will ultimately breed resistance and mistrust. So procedural justice is something that a manager gets to sit down and explain to employees, here's why you are where you are. Distribute, and we do it in all aspects of life. If somebody has a question about a grade, if you have a receipt and you take back in and you say, look, you charged me $20 for this thing that I bought, but on the tag it said $10, and they say, oh no, we charged you right. You're not going to take that and walk away. You're going to go, no, wait a second, it said $10. You need to justify it or else give me the $10 back. That's procedural justice. Distributive justice just means the way that the outcomes are distributed, does it look fair? Does it seem fair? So you can actually substitute one justice for the other. If there are 5 engineers in a room, one of them makes $300,000 a year, and the other 4 make $50,000 a year, that is a violation of distributive justice. It doesn't look like money is being distributed fairly. But I can come in with procedural justice and say, here's our intellectual property and patent policy. That engineer just established 2 patents that produced $20 million revenue for our business. That's why they make that amount of money. This has been the policy. It is the policy. The other employees at that point go, oh, okay. Like, I don't like that I only make 50 grand a year and that lady over there makes 300,000 a year, but I get it now. It's fair now. That's where we'd substitute procedural justice for distributive justice. How do we know how to price jobs? Part of that is, what is your strategy in the market? You can lead or lag or meet the market. So you might think McDonald's drive-thru workers, they lag the market because they don't get paid very much money. No, they don't. They meet the market. In some ways, they actually lead the market. The question is, what is the market for that job? If the drive-thru worker at Jack in the Box makes 10 bucks an hour and a drive-thru worker at McDonald's makes $10.50 an hour, McDonald's is leading the market at that point. You can think of a barista who gets minimum wage and they share tips versus Starbucks, where you get minimum wage, you share tips, you get your partner beverage every day, and you get a coffee or tea every week, and you get medical benefits, vision benefits, tuition reimbursement, stock options. Starbucks might be employing baristas, but they definitely lead the market in terms of the compensation strategy. How do you know what you should do here? You lead the market where it's your core competency. Okay, so in Starbucks, you need to lead the market for baristas. Why? Because that's the experience people have. You don't have to lead the market in Starbucks for landscapers. On a golf course, you better lead the market on the golf course for landscapers, because that's the experience people have. It's what they're paying for, right? At Google, you're going to lead the market for your engineers, and you can meet the market for fill in the blank, your accountants, your finance people. So it's, what is your core competency? What are you best at? And you go, okay, in that area, we can't afford to lose good talent to our competitors. We have to win in that area. That's where you lead the market. Some of the other areas you can lead, you can lag. You'd lag if it's a easily available resource, or normally you'd end up try to meet the market. 2 different models. When we send people overseas, there's all kinds of financial implications when we send out an expatriate: tax equalization payments, relocation, home visits, medical benefits are different depending on what country you're going to. So there's 2 different models. One of them is a home country model or a host country model, and that is if I'm sending a software engineer to South Africa, do I want to pay them to live the experience of a South African software engineer, or do I want to pay them what they would have gotten here, or that experience here? Either's fine. Usually people expect a bump if they're going to go overseas. If you're going to send them to Hawaii for 6 months, you probably don't have to bump them too much. But if you're going to send them certainly someplace they don't want to go, you're going to have to pay them usually a lot more. In terms of pricing, this happens from time to time. Someone says, hey, I have this new job. Matter of fact, here's a recent example. I have a friend who's a mechanic who owns a mechanic shop. There's multiple mechanics, and he wants to hire a bookkeeper. And he says, how much do I pay this person? Like, I know how to pay mechanics. I don't know how to pay bookkeepers. So we go on to the Bureau of Labor Statistics and ONET, and we look at what the job is and what the job is worth. And then we look at regional data and say, okay, well, here's the job nationally. Here's the job in Washington State. And here's the variations between Yakima, Ellensburg, Seattle, Spokane, Bellevue. So here's kind of what you can expect to be paying. That's how you price a job. The other option, the other thing you do with pricing jobs, of course, is what are the current employees at your company making? Don't assume it's good. I mean, double check it with external sources or the compensation survey, but that's usually where you would start. There's a salary reference analysis, salary analysis by way of what's called a salary reference table. I tried to take a shot at one. I want to highlight the idea of like a green circle versus red circle employee. So I've got two lines here, and this is kind of the average salary, the orange line for your high performers in this job, and this is your average salary for your low performers in this job. So this is just example data. Maybe it goes up and then eventually starts to level out. And as your high performers across the bottom, of course, you can see years of service, and the top is salary. So when we say a green circled employee, what we mean, you just plot the data on a line graph, and you'll see where all your employees are, and plot the median and the average, and you'll get an idea of what's a reasonable bandwidth, plus or minus 5,000, plus or minus 1 standard deviation, whatever it is. And I'm looking at this person down here. I put L for low performer. This person's been here maybe 6 or 7 years, and they're making about $58,000 a year. And I look at that and I say, that's a green circled employee. Green means go. I need to load some money on that person to get them up in the bandwidth. See, I've priced this job at a higher rate than where they currently are. They might be a low performing employee, or an average employee might be better, because I probably fire a low performing employee, an average employee. But what's happened here most likely is wage compression. That is, the average salaries have come up, and this person has been here 6 or 7 years, and we have not been able to keep them up. So if it's an average performer, I'm going to need to load some more money on there. Let's say this person right here. This is a high performer. They're 12 years of experience. They're making 90 grand. Why is this person there? Well, this person is there because our manager met them at a conference, and they had some really great ideas. So we went out and we hired them, and they said, there's no way I'm making a move for less than 90 grand. And we said, it's worth it. And so we went and we hired them, and here they are at 90 grand. But we'd say that's a red circled employee, because the average of our data, their years of service, means that they are paid much higher than the average, even of the high performing workers. So they're not going to get the same rate of increase as everybody else until they come back into line with the rest of the group. So again, green circle employee means we got to throw some money on them, get them up higher to respect that bandwidth. Red circled employees, we got to freeze until the bandwidth eventually catches up to them. That's what I mean by red and green circled employees. A lot of ways that we can do increases. Our accountants love when we give employees lump sum increases. Don't fall for this, by the way. It's a little dirty HR and accounting trick that we do from time to time. That is, if your salary is 60 grand, it's classic with entry-level graduates. So they come in, they just graduated, they drive a dumpy car, they've never had money in their hands in their life, and now they have a job at 60 grand a year and they love it. And I come and meet them at the end of the year and say, you did a great job, it's awesome, we're going to give you a $5,000 raise. We can put that in your hand in cash, or we can spread it out over 12 months. And they think about it, and maybe the person says, well, is there anything you want to do? Is there a trip you want to go? I mean, just finished college. Maybe you want to go on a vacation. And they go, yeah. Maybe you have college debt. You should pay, something, Like, they go, yeah. So they take the 5 grand. Their base salary stays the same, which means their increase next year is based off that same old 60 grand. So my counsel to you is, don't do that. Let your salary compound. Your next salary will always be a function of your current salary. There's Cost of living adjustments. As the price of living goes up, we can add those. There's seniority adjustments, which I don't really like any of these things because they're all standardized. We'll get into the next chapter about variable pay, but there are a few options. So that provides kind of a somewhat of a framework for total rewards and compensation. The next chapter we'll get into variable pay, and we'll see what is an optimal way to pay people. That is, pay people in a way that varies with their performance. Don't just pay people for having a pulse and showing up.